$8 million Miami mansion to hell on earth where chaos reigns. Just some of the words used to describe the Metropolitan Detention Center where Sean Diddy Combs is now being held without bail after pleading not guilty to sex trafficking and racketeering charges.
Combs abused, threatened, and coerced victims to fulfill his sexual desires, protect his reputation, and conceal his conduct.
He is not the first high-profile inmate to pass through these walls. Ghislaine Maxwell, R. Kelly, Pharma Bro, Martin Shkreli, and crypto fraudster Sam Bankman-Fried, all as they waited for their federal criminal trials, called this jail home. But the conditions of the prison are far from homey, notoriously described as, quote, dreadful, as one judge put it. Some on the bench have even moved away from sending nonviolent defendants there. In April, a group of detainees that prosecutors said were MS-13 gang members in court documents stabbed an inmate 44 times in an attack caught on camera. 2 shivs were recovered from the attack. You see them here. The victim survived. And in the last 3 years alone, 4 inmates have died by suicide. And violence is not the only issue. Accusations of medical neglect, staffing shortages, smuggling of drugs, some allegedly facilitated by employees. At least 6 staff members charged with crimes in the last 5 years, according to the AP. Some accused of accepting bribes and providing contraband.
I've had clients describe MDC as hell, as the worst conditions they've been in.
Lance A. Clark is a federal defense attorney who's been there many times.
Now, if the government is going to mandate that they are responsible for your well-being, they have to ensure the safety of your well-being.
Occupy the streets until they get heat.
In the winter of 2019, protests over a power outage left inmates without light or heat for a week in the cold.
I understand how cold it must be in those cells and not to have any electricity.
I'm excited about the recent buzz surrounding a list of celebrities linked to P. Diddy's controversial parties.
Communicate with your family is just inhumane.
The prison has about 1,200 detainees and is the only federal prison in the nation's largest city. The DOJ shut down New York City's other federal jail, the Metropolitan Correctional Center, back in 2021, 2 years after Jeffrey Epstein died by suicide there. A Bureau of Prisons spokesman telling NBC News they, quote, take seriously addressing the staffing and other challenges at MDC Brooklyn, adding the director appointed an urgent action team and they've increased staffing.
MDC has historically had tremendous problems and the problems aren't resolved.
Combs' lawyers originally hoping he could await trial under house arrest at his mansion, now arguing for him to be moved to a prison in New Jersey in the lead up to this trial, citing the prison's poor conditions, violence, and deaths. On Wednesday, his lawyer said he was being held in a special housing unit with an extra level of security.
Yasmin's back with us now. So what is next? Is he going to be in jail in this facility until the trial begins? Is there a chance he could, get moved earlier than that?
As of this moment, as of this hour, as of today, yes. But of course, as I mentioned earlier, they're going to be appealing this thing next to the Second U.S. Circuit Court of Appeals to overturn the judge's order here to try and get him actually released to his mansion on $50 million bail, wanting a GPS monitoring system, limited visits from family members, friends, so on and so forth. That is what they're proposing because of course, the violence I talked about in that piece inside these jail walls. They also, in the meantime, Hal, want to get him moved to a jail and or prison in New Jersey. The judge so far has essentially said that is up to the Bureau of Prisons to make that decision. Nonetheless, it's all going to be on appeals leading up to the trial. His next court appearance, by the way, October 9th. So looking for that, of course, and any decisions coming out from the Second U.S. Circuit Court of Appeals on this order.
His arrest on September 16th has put him in a precarious legal situation, leading to his detainment at Brooklyn's Metropolitan Detention Center, MDC. The world is watching as his legal team prepares for what could be one of the most significant trials of his career.
After a judge denied his request for bail a second time, and the place where he's locked up now getting a lot of attention. The Metropolitan Detention Center, the only federal jail in New York City, is known for violence, poor conditions, and a string of celebrity detainees. And Diddy's attorneys want him out. NBC News' Yasmin Youssein has more.
From his $48 million Miami mansion to hell on earth where chaos reigns. Just some of the words used to describe the Metropolitan Detention Center where Sean Diddy Combs is now being held without bail after pleading not guilty to sex trafficking and racketeering charges.
Combs abused, threatened, and coerced victims to fulfill his sexual desires, protect his reputation, and conceal his conduct.
He is not the first high-profile inmate to pass through these walls. Ghislaine Maxwell, R. Kelly, Pharma Bro, Martin Shkreli, and crypto fraudster Sam Bankman-Fried, all as they waited for their federal criminal trials, called this jail home. But the conditions of the prison are far from homey, notoriously described as, quote, dreadful, as one judge put it. Some on the bench have even moved away from sending nonviolent defendants there. In April, a group of detainees that prosecutors said were MS-13 gang members in court documents stabbed an inmate 44 times in an attack caught on camera. 2 shivs were recovered from the attack. You see them here. The victim survived. And in the last 3 years alone, 4 inmates have died by suicide. And violence is not the only issue. Accusations of medical neglect, staffing shortages, smuggling of drugs, some allegedly facilitated by employees. At least 6 staff members charged with crimes in the last 5 years, according to the AP.
Names like Leonardo DiCaprio, Jay-Z, Ashton Kutcher, Paris Hilton, Howard Stern, Russell Brand, Mariah Carey, Jennifer Lopez, Russell Simmons, Usher, and Megan Fox have all been mentioned.
Clients describe MDC as hell, as the worst conditions they've been in.
Lance A. Clark is a federal defense attorney who's been there many times.
Now, if the government is going to mandate that they are responsible for your well-being, they have to ensure the safety of your well-being.
Occupy the streets until they get heat.
In the winter of 2019, protests over a power outage left inmates without light or heat for a week in the cold.
I understand how cold it must be in those cells, and not to have any electricity, any lights, and to not be able to communicate with your family is just inhumane.
The prison has about 1,200 detainees and is the only federal prison in the nation's largest city. The DOJ shut down New York City's other federal jail, the Metropolitan Correctional Center, back in 2021, 2 years after Jeffrey Epstein died by suicide there. A Bureau of Prisons spokesman telling NBC News they, quote, take seriously addressing the staffing and other challenges at MDC Brooklyn, adding the director appointed an urgent action team and they've increased staffing.
MDC has historically had tremendous problems, and the problems aren't resolved.
Combs' lawyers originally hoping he could await trial under house arrest at his mansion, now arguing for him to be moved to a prison in New Jersey in the lead up to this trial, citing the prison's poor conditions, violence, and deaths. On Wednesday, his lawyer said he was being held in a special housing unit with an extra level of security.
His life could still be in danger there. And that former warden is Cameron Lindsay, and she joins me now. Cameron, great to have you here. We just read it out loud. One lawyer for one inmate called it the MDC overcrowded and understaffed, hell on earth. Combs' own lawyers called it horrific. Why are conditions so bad there?
Well, it's been a number of years since I've been in the Metropolitan Detention Center, but what I can tell you is New York City, being the biggest, most populated city in America, the MDC has a difficult time recruiting and retaining staff. So one of the key issues is the lack of staffing. And it would be unfair for me not to mention that the vast majority of MDC staff are hardworking, salt of the earth, well-trained people. I know many of them. They're fantastic people. Unfortunately, however, there has been a disproportionate element of corruption within the ranks of MDC. And I think that has to do with a number of factors, to include the inability to hold on to the really good staff.
Yeah.
Many of them leave.
Combs isn't the only famous inmate to be housed there. We had Sam Bankman-Fried there, R. Kelly, Ghislaine Maxwell. They were all inmates there. Sean Combs is being kept away from the general inmate population. You say his fame makes him a target.
Yeah, sure. And not necessarily at the MDC only. I mean,
anywhere.
Yes. In my humble estimation, his life, his safety is in jeopardy in any correctional lockup right now. If it is true, as reported, that he is housed in the special housing unit, it's important to note that the special housing unit is a lockdown, 24-hour lockdown unit. The MDC Brooklyn is a high-rise. The vast majority of the floors are general population floors. But the special housing unit is a 24-hour lockdown facility. So this is for Mr. Combs' protection. His incredible worldwide celebrity combined with the allegations, the charges now, and indictment, of course, of acts of violence against women make him a very attractive target.
All
so
right.
obviously they need to safeguard him.
This is a man accustomed to the very finest. He was arrested at the Park Hyatt Hotel in New York City, known for its luxury suites.
There's a lot of speculation about their involvement, but no solid evidence has emerged so far.
Bedroom suites start at $3,000 a night. He was probably staying in something larger. What is life like for him now at the MDC?
I would say 100% total culture shock. The MDC is, I've used the word austere a lot, but it is. It's austere, it's strict, it's impersonal, it's cold, and it is a very tough place to be detained.
Yeah, we've got 1 hour of rec time a day, 3 showers a week, a 6 a.m. wake-up call. He's expected to make his own bed and mop his floor, 3 meals a day delivered to his jail cell door.
I don't know about mopping the floor, but definitely the lights come on at early morning around 6, if not somewhat earlier. The thing is, Liz, being in administrative detention, being in the special housing unit, he's not going to experience the regular daily life that most inmates or detainees go through. Because he's in protection status, if that is validated, then he will be locked in the cell 23 hours a day with 1 hour recreation in a fenced-in area where I would certainly expect for him to be recreating alone. 3 showers a week, as you pointed out, and 3 hots and a cot, as they say. But he will be in that cell, minus social and legal visits. He will be in the cell 23 hours.
The list gained more attention when people noticed that Usher and Pink had deleted posts from their social media accounts, fueling even more rumors.
Sean Diddy Combs is locked up in a federal jail that has been plagued by harsh conditions and violence. The Metropolitan Detention Center in Brooklyn has seen multiple deaths in recent years. An inmate was stabbed to death in July, and several others have died by suicide. It's these reasons, among others, that Combs' lawyers are fighting to get him out of there. They want him released on bail rather than being kept in jail while he awaits trial on sex trafficking charges. Combs is just the latest high-profile defendant to be locked up at MDC Brooklyn. Before him, there were R. Kelly, Elaine Maxwell, and crypto scammer Sam Bankman-Fried. Maxwell complained about her treatment at the facility, which included round-the-clock checks in the wake of her associate Jeffrey Epstein's jail suicide. A few years ago, a week-long power outage in the dead of winter left detainees in drab, cold conditions. Judges have also raised alarms. They've pressed the Bureau of Prisons for status updates and implored the agency to fix things. One judge even refused to send some defendants to the jail. For now, Combs is one of about 1,200 people locked up at MDC Brooklyn. He's the highest profile detainee at a place that's been described as hell on earth.
As Diddy waits for his day in court, his legal team is working tirelessly to secure his release. His attorney, Agnifilo, has been fighting hard, arguing that Diddy isn't a danger to the community. They've made their case that he should be allowed out on bail while awaiting trial. But so far, the judges haven't been convinced.
It's now been 1 week since the arrest of Sean Diddy Combs.
Diddy is now at the Metropolitan Detention Center in Brooklyn, a place that's been described as hell on earth. Fox 5's Lisa Evers is at MDC right now on Diddy's life behind bars. Lisa, what are you finding out tonight?
Well, Natasha and Steve, for the first time in his life, Sean Diddy Combs has spent a week behind bars. He's here inside MDC, where he's been since his arrest on Monday night on federal sex trafficking and other charges, to all of which he's pleaded not guilty. There's no VIP section. There is no concierge, only con men, killers, and kingpins. MDC is so bad, federal judges have questioned the harsh conditions for those here awaiting trial. So bad I was here 2 years ago during a cold spell, reporting on detainees with no heat, pounding on windows for help. There was even a congressional inquiry. But take the word of a former inmate I spoke with who goes by Esco.
It's terrible. The food is terrible. Of course, the inmates are terrible. The guards are terrible. The conditions are terrible. It's just terrible.
The inmates that you're surrounded around, just in general, a lot of them are brought up on pretty heavy federal indictments, right? So just in terms of the atmosphere there, it's just certainly one that no one wants to be in.
Combs was placed in a special housing unit and on suicide watch, the standard protocol for high-profile celebrity detainees. The disgraced mogul was denied bail by 2 separate judges. His attorney, Mark Agnifilo, asked the court to transfer him to the federal detention section at the Essex County Jail, but the judge deferred to the Bureau of Prisons. Federal trial attorney Philip Hamilton says lockdown can mean a lot less time to prepare your defense.
In terms of fighting their case, it just makes it all the more difficult, because now in terms of you being able to communicate with your attorney, you are at the realms of just what's going on with respect to the facility. Is it on lockdown? Is the facility letting visitors in?
Detainees on suicide watch wear tearaway paper hospital-style garments and rubber shower shoes. The isolation may be the worst part for Combs. It's being done for his protection in the violence-prone facility. He will have no bunkie.
He's probably not going to have any contact with any other inmates. So for him, it's going to be a little different than for a person like me, where I will go through process and intake, and then they'll assign me a cell, and I'll have a bunkie or a cellmate, and I'll be in population.
For him to be able to get out at this point, it just doesn't look good.
Now, we reached out to Combs' attorney but did not get a response. We also reached out to the Bureau of Prisons. They confirmed to us that Combs is in fact detained here at MDC. For how long remains to be seen. We're live at MDC in Sunset Park, Brooklyn. I'm Lisa Evers, Fox 5 News.
In fact, 2 judges have already denied his bail, citing concerns about witness tampering. That's a significant accusation, and one that's kept Diddy behind bars, despite his legal team's best efforts.
Justin Bieber's name has also come up, with some suggesting he might be impacted by whatever P. Diddy is involved in.
Sean Diddy Combs is getting ready for court, where he's pleaded not guilty to charges that accuse him of leading a criminal enterprise that sexually abused and exploited women. The defense is accusing federal agents and prosecutors of tainting the jury pool with unlawful leaks, taking aim at the well-publicized raids on Diddy's homes, and this video obtained by CNN showing Combs attacking his then-girlfriend Cassie in a hotel hallway. Combs is in jail, so his attorneys are asking for an expedited trial beginning in April or May.
Speedy trial really is going to depend on whether or not the prosecution feels as though they are ready for trial in the spring. Do they have enough evidence? Have they spoken to enough witnesses? And are they prepared enough to start trial in this early spring?
The defense is still trying to get Diddy released on bail, arguing he offered to comply with restrictive conditions that would have prevented any conceivable risk of flight or danger. The hip-hop mogul offered to sequester in his $50 million Miami estate, limit visitors, and give up his cell phone. But the judge found Diddy a threat to witnesses and a danger to women. Today, he'll appear before a new judge assigned to the case.
Based on what they're telling me, he's a monster.
Plaintiff's attorney Andrew Van Arsdale telling ABC News a growing number of women and men, nearly 300 now, are coming forward claiming they were invited into Diddy's luxurious world, drugged and sexually assaulted, often on tape. And the lawyer says it's not just Combs.
We've received a lot of accusations against very well-known celebrities that allegedly participated in these after parties, that were either in the room, maybe witnessing these sexual assaults taking place, or even participating in them.
The attorney has declined to name the celebrities and has filed no lawsuits against them or Combs.
Although the civil lawsuits that are allegedly going to be filed have no bearing on the criminal trial that would be happening, the criminal trial can have bearing on the civil cases.
His attorney says Combs emphatically and categorically denies as false and defamatory any claim that he sexually abused anyone, including minors.
When Combs appears in court later this afternoon, Diane, prosecutors could reveal more evidence. They've already said more charges are possible and new defendants are likely. Diane?
Senior investigative correspondent Aaron Katursky.
Recent images show a variety of celebrities, from Leonardo DiCaprio to Mariah Carey, partying with the controversial rapper at events dating back to 1998. One photo features Diddy at a white party with Kim Kardashian and Paris Hilton in the background, while another captures him with Ashton Kutcher and Demi Moore at a gathering in 2009. Other notable guests included Russell Brand, Chris Brown, Lil' Kim, Nicole Richie, and Tommy Lee. One picture from Diddy's East Hampton house shows two women pouring champagne into another woman's mouth while she's in the pool.
For a second time in as many days as he fights federal sex trafficking and racketeering charges. The music mogul now behind bars while he awaits trial inside one of the country's most notorious federal jails. The Metropolitan Detention Center in Brooklyn has dealt with a bevy of problems over the years, while also holding a number of high-profile and celebrity inmates. Let's bring in senior national correspondent Laura Ingle, who is live outside of that detention center. Laura, what do we know about life on the inside there?
Boy, it is certainly going to be a lot different for Diddy. That much we know. And Diddy's lawyers have laid it all on the line, trying to get him out of the facility you see here behind me, offering up a $50 million package, among many other things, as collateral, including his Miami mansion, his mother's home, which total $50 million, security packages. But as you mentioned, and as we've been reporting, a second federal judge said, no way, he's going to be staying here for the long run until he goes to trial. And so this is going to be a very long haul here at the MDC. It's the Metropolitan Detention Center, Brooklyn. And it's been described as one of the most violent, dangerous, and at times deadly lockups. A former warden of the MDC actually says that Diddy's life is now in danger, he believes, at this notorious federal detention facility. And Combs' attorney says the music mogul is being held in the special housing unit away from the general population. So he's got that. The former warden, Cameron Lindsay, tells TMZ he believes he's a target due to his celeb status and the serious allegations against him with sex trafficking. And his attorney agrees. Listen here.
The food is inedible, from what I've been told. It's way too hot in the summer. Sometimes there's no heat at all in the winter. The toilet water has been known to freeze. It's violent,
Yeah, and we've been here before. We've told you about this facility in previous reporting. We've talked about R. Kelly being housed here, Jeffrey Epstein's associate, Ghislaine Maxwell, and farmer bro Martin Shkreli have spent time here behind me. It is not a fun place to be. In fact, it is considered to be one of the most dangerous detention centers in the country. His lawyers continuing to try to get him out, Nicole.
Yeah, so Laura, some people expressing concerns about his safety, but what will his daily routine, what is it going to look like for him inside that detention center?
We got a little bit of a glimpse of it from that former warden who spoke with TMZ, talking about what the daily routine is here, including a 6 a.m. wake-up call for every inmate. There's 1,600 inmates that are housed here. He will be made to make his bed, mop his floor, keep his cell clean, and he will get 3 meals a day, adding up to 1,800 calories. That's all they get. The list of grievances, though, here at the MDC is long. There was a man here who was stabbed to death at the jail at 37 years old over the summer. Rampant violence, poor conditions, staffing shortages, lockdowns. That inmate that was murdered last year and the detainees who have been held at the MDC Brooklyn have complained for years about rampant violence, horrific conditions, staffing shortages, barred from leaving their cells for visits, showers, or exercise. Legal experts say that Diddy's trial on these serious charges, on the litany of sex trafficking charges, will not be anytime soon, most likely, which is why his attorneys are continuing to fight to get him released immediately. Lawyers for Mr. Combs say they are doing everything they can to get that speedy trial, and now are actually hoping to get him transferred to Essex County, where things will be a little easier for them to manage this case moving forward. His next court appearance not until September 24th, so we wait to see what his lawyers will come up with next to get him out of here as soon as possible, according to them.
All right, yeah, if that will actually happen. All right, Laura Ingle, thank you.
During a raid at his home, police reports allegedly uncovered baby oil and drugs, raising many eyebrows given the seriousness of the accusations. P. Diddy has pleaded not guilty and continues to assert his innocence.
Still behind bars this morning after a second judge denied him bail as he faces federal sex trafficking and racketeering charges. Combs was arrested Monday in New York. In his latest appeal, he offered to give up $50 million and restrict his female visitors just his family. But he now waits in jail for what could be at least a year before his trial begins. So joining me now here in Studio 57 with the latest on this case is CBS News correspondent Lilia Luciano. This is quite a case. So this is the second judge, his second attempt to get bail, and he offered all kinds of things that I haven't heard before and still got turned down.
All kinds of things. And Anne-Marie, the prosecution kept saying, look, he has shown that he's not a flight risk. He is trying to sell his plane. He paid off the house, the $50 million, $48 million house in Miami, so that could be a security of sorts. So that could be a collateral for the bail. His family, including his 3 sons, his mother, his sister, and 2 of the mothers of 2 of his daughters were all named as co-sponsors, if you will. They proposed a third party or independent company to do 24-hour surveillance in his house in Miami, of course, monitoring, no access to internet, no access to cell phone. As you said, female visitors, except the mothers of his children, would not be allowed into the house. And the judge said, first of all, you couldn't even, from the defense side, you could not prove that he's not a flight risk plane and that the plane is not in the areas or in the cities where he would be, and that they couldn't prove that he's not a danger to the community and that he couldn't corrupt the case by trying to reach out to victims, something that the prosecutors have said he had tried to do multiple times. So they're saying, look, through third parties, you could still try and threaten or intimidate witnesses or victims.
Yeah, that witness tampering component of it. Are his lawyers complaining about conditions in jail?
Oh, yeah. This is a place, the lawyer yesterday was talking about, the conditions he could be facing, the conditions in the prison, and this is a place that has been called hell on earth. This is a place that has severe understaffing issues. Not long ago, throughout the winter, inmates went through in the middle of the winter, through a whole week without power. They have something, when it comes to the staffing shortages and accusations of smuggling and corruption, there's been more than 6 staff members in the last 5 years who have been charged with crimes. There have been violent events. Somebody died this year by suicide. Somebody else died in a beating. There have been, there were something like 4 suicides this year. Somebody was stabbed, somebody died in a beating. It's a very, very difficult place to be in and survive. And that's why his attorney's saying, please let him post bail, or at least they're trying to move him to a separate prison or a jail in New Jersey.
Quite a shocking shift in conditions for somebody like Puffy.
Who was living in a $50 million home.
Exactly, one of them.
Usher has also been pulled into this situation, particularly because he used to live with P. Diddy.
We now know that a second judge has officially denied Diddy's bail in this sex trafficking case. Again, I want to show you the outside of the courthouse where we're waiting for Diddy's team to come out, or prosecutors to possibly come out and talk to reporters who are stationed outside of that New York courtroom after the judge just handed down this ruling. Now, we do have a lot more updates and even more questions that are going to be coming over the next few hours to see what this does mean for the music mogul. So I now want to bring into the conversation Nima Rahmani. He's a legal analyst who's been following this case very closely. Nima, first of all, were you surprised to see that this judge has decided to now deny bail for the second time for Diddy?
I wasn't surprised, Christina, and this is why. There's really 2 types of federal judges in criminal cases. There's a magistrate judge and there's the district judge. The district judge is a higher judge. He is going to be the judge that's actually presiding over Diddy's trial. But What a magistrate judge will do is make a recommendation when it comes to bond. And when criminal defendants appeal to that higher judge, it's not necessarily going to a higher court like the Second Circuit Court of Appeal. It's going to the judge who's actually going to hear the case. And that judge has to review the bail determination de novo. That's a Latin term that essentially means anew or for the first time. So they can't give any precedential impact to the lower judge's ruling. Now, why did the judge, in this case, Judge Carter, who's the district judge, decide to detain Diddy without bond? There's really two reasons why pretrial detention is appropriate. One, if an individual is a risk of flight, and two, if they're a danger to the community. Obviously, we're seeing the images, the drawings. There's no cameras allowed in federal court or even state courts in New York for that matter.